Eric is a former police officer. He's also a husband and a father. He has been in One Life since November 2016. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he is a very, very ardent person for helping others. Eric loves to help other people. He is also the owner of Sunlight Studios, audiovisual production company. He is also the captain of our Deal Shaker platform. So, for those of you who are on, it's not quite that far into the presentation. You can still get your text out, get your WhatsApp out, get everybody on the presentation because this gentleman is about to really open up the information on One Life in a way that every presenter in this organization does. So without any further ado, Eric, are you ready for us? We are definitely ready for you.
I am here, sir. Are you hearing me? Are you seeing me?
Loud and clear, and I'm seeing you.
Thank you.
Take it away.
You guys, you guys always get me scared with this kind of introduction, you know. So, but thank you, Wayne. Again, I always want to say thanks to the team that is responsible for putting these presentations together. In this case, Donna and Cliff Samlal Singh and their team, and everybody who else who plays a part in making this happen. Again, Wayne, thank you very much. Let me say a special good night to our leaders, King and Patrice James, Ivan and Michelle Mark, Edwin Wilson, and all the others. We have Clifton Chinlipsey, all the way from Suriname, logged on as well. And for those of you who might be logged on from different parts of the world, both locally and abroad, Trinidad, Suriname, Antigua, Guyana, UK, Europe, wheresoever you may be, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good day. So let's jump right in. Let me do a quick share. All right, so Wayne, could you just please confirm my screen is up?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much, my lord. So this is me, ladies and gentlemen. As Wayne said, my name is Eric Alvarez, but I like to introduce myself this way. I'm just an ordinary guy doing extraordinary stuff. At least I hope that I'm doing some extraordinary stuff. Some people say extraordinary. I like to say extraordinary. And of course, I'm a deal shaker merchant and proud to be that. And you'll hear some more about this whole deal shaker thing coming down the road. But firstly, I want to say congratulations for those of you who have taken the time to hear what we want to present tonight, to hear what I have to share with you. Because at the end of the day, I tell people you cannot make an informed decision without correct information. Bottom line, simple as that. You cannot make an informed decision if you do not have the correct information. And my task tonight is to try to give you some correct information along a particular line that would help you to make a decision that one way or the other could have lasting and positive effect on your life. So let me just jump right in. So what we're talking tonight is about opportunity and crisis. It's interesting to know that in the Greek, that word crisis actually means to sift, which is to pass judgment, to keep only what is worthwhile. There is an opportunity in every crisis. And the deeper the crisis, the better the opportunity. Those of us who are alive today, I know, who are alive today, we're currently going through a kind of crisis in the world. But while most people might just see that aspect of it, there are other people that are seeing significant opportunities being presented and are capitalizing on that. So let's go talk a little bit. The unfortunate thing is many persons they are incapable of seeing the opportunity in the midst of a crisis. Let me say that again. Many persons are incapable of seeing the opportunity during a crisis. Now, during any crisis, people may feel fear, anxiety, people may feel confusion, a sense of dread. Therefore, everybody will not respond the same way. I like to say this way, everybody process things differently. We each process information differently. How you respond will be based ultimately on how you interpret your current scenario. So here are 3 ways of interpreting that same word that we used earlier, fear, F-E-A-R. Some people say it is false evidence appearing real. There are some who might say, forget everything and run. And then there are those who might say, face everything and rise. Again, how you respond to the situation is all based on how you interpret it. So here we have 3 uniquely different interpretations, and obviously the end results will be telling based on that. So when things aren't going right, most persons tend to see a problem. When things not going the way you plan for weeks, for months, possibly years, and somehow things not falling the way you expected it to, most people will see a problem. They see crisis, they see demise, they say, oh gosh, they start to feel discouraged and disappointment. All these negative things come up. But similarly, in the same scenario, somebody else sees, okay, this is an opportunity. If at least nothing else, at least for me to improve. There is a product, I understand there is a product called 7-Eleven. I know there's a store called 7-Eleven in the States, but I understand there is a product called 7-Eleven. And it got the name because the people failed 710 times before they actually got through. Most of us will know the story of the guy who invented the light bulb. How much times he failed, when his warehouse burned down, how much millions he lost, but he still persists. Now look at us. I'm bright. Why? Because there's some big lights right in front there shining on my face, making sure you see me good. There is always an opportunity during every crisis. It all depends on how you interpret it. Just give me 1 second here, guys. Let me correct something. Yes, I forgot I had some videos in the mix, so I had to activate this sound. So when faced with a crisis, many persons will choose to look at all that is going wrong and all that could go wrong. You know the saying, Murphy's Law. There's a fella I don't like at all. I would never name my child Murphy. That's a little joke. But seriously, when things start going right, people tend to focus on everything that could and have gone wrong and everything that could go wrong. On the other hand, instead, I tend to look beyond the crisis for the simple reason the crisis is already here. It has already happened or is already happening. I can't change that. I could, however, change the outcome. What happens beyond this point, I can change that. So I would tend to focus on that. A few years ago, I lost my firstborn, my daughter, in an accident. And I remember over the couple days subsequent, I was bombarded with calls and messages from people. And you know, that's the time you get a ton of advisors, people who you don't see or don't hear from for years. That's the time they become advisors and they have everything to say and they know what you should do and what you shouldn't do and why. And everybody had something to say, and people, all sorts of legal things people started to bring up about insurance and sue the driver and all the kind of different things. I said, at the end of the day, there's one thing that is concerning to me. I have a wife and a son that I still need to take care of. I need to now focus on what happens from this point onwards. The accident has already taken place. I cannot change that. There's nothing I could do to alter what happened in the past. However, I could look at the situation and see how can I progress from here onward. So when you look at your present scenario, your present circumstance, do you see yourself in crisis or do you see opportunities? people's reaction to danger, depend on a lot on how they are wired, what they have learned in the past, their exposures to stress, and their preconceived notions. Just shift this slightly. All right, they're up. Yeah, their preconceived notions of what constitutes danger. If you're primed to be afraid of flying, you'll be more likely to have a strong reaction to things going on in an airplane, such as turbulence. However, you might not have the same response in another circumstance. For example, you'll probably react differently if you're in a fire. That was from a thesis by psychologist Russell Schilling. So people's response to a situation ultimately goes back to their perception, and in this case, the guy has another feature, how they're wired, how they're made up. And all those things come together that help you determine how you react to a situation. So right now, the world, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is obvious, we all know what's happening. But the world is currently in a global crisis. We are currently facing a global crisis. And while some countries seemed to have made some progress, there are others who thought they did and fell right back. In fact, their second state was worse than their first. But nevertheless, everybody so often would come up with something new, some means of trying to move forward. Why? Because we can't stay there. We can't stay in that state. So everybody is trying to see how can we come out from this crisis scenario. And everything has been affected: travel, food, business. Well, don't talk about business. Within the first week, we started hearing about businesses shutting down because many businesses run almost purely on a debt base. So month to month, they're actually paying off debt from the previous month. So when they seem to be making a lot of money, and in reality, they're not. They're just shifting debt from position to position, from person to person. So within a short space of time, all their reserves dried up. Some people didn't have any reserve because it was literally from person to person, debt to debt. The health scenario has deteriorated. Streets have been vacant for hundreds of meters, some possibly miles in some cases, where you would normally see large crowds of people. They're in trickles. Everybody's walking around, people walking around with the sanitizer in their pocket now, gloves, masks, the whole shebang. We know what's happening. But I want us to come to something now, because everything that has been affected by the crisis has been affected by one major thing. Because this one thing, there is hardly anything we can do on the face of the earth that does not require this particular thing. And it is called money. Some reason whenever you say money, some people, oh gosh, and some people go in a kind of a shell. But we need to be real. There is hardly anything, if anything, you can do on the face of this earth that does not require money, whether directly from you or indirectly from somebody else on your behalf. There is almost nothing that does not require money. For those of you who subscribe to the Bible, even the Bible says money answers all things. And that's a serious statement. But before I get to that, I want to show you something just to build a premise. We all use some level of technology today. Even people who claim to, there's I'm trying to remember the term they use, but people who, like, they want to live in the bush like a hermit and, all that kind of stuff. They still rely on some kind of modern day something, because they're not rubbing sticks to make fire. They have lamp or they have candle, and they come down in the city to buy their stocks. They have cutlass that was made with modern day machinery. They didn't find iron ore and beat it to make their own cutlass or their knives and so on. So even those people still rely on some kind of technology today for survival. And if you look at the picture, you could see a progress with basic everyday technology items that we've been using for years. Some of us would remember Superman and the phone booth, where you literally walked into the phone booth. Now you hold your phone booth in your pocket. in fact, is no longer just a phone, is almost like a whole office in your pocket. Hardly anybody goes to the mailbox, to the post office to mail letters now. Why? Because we moved from that to fax, and now fax is almost totally a thing of the past. Almost, only big business now use fax, and still very sparingly. But now it's email, and people doing email blasts, and one email and it's thousands of hundreds of thousands of people get your message almost instantly, and that's the way it goes. I know some persons looking on the chat may not recognize what that first item is in the middle, the one that has the symbol TDK. That is called a cassette. A lot of people don't know what it's that, because this new generation have been born into the iTunes and Spotify, which is digital download. So you just log on to the internet, use your phone, use your laptop, whatever device, and you're online downloading. What about movies? Blockbuster. You all remember going to the video club to rent your VHS and your Betamax VHS, and then it moved to DVD. And a few years ago, you can find a DVD store in almost every city, every little country, every town you go in, almost every village. I'm talking about Trinidad now. You could find somebody with a little DVD store. Now they're very scarce, because not everybody has made the shift to embrace technology, but it has happened. Now, Amazon and Facebook have TV services. They have surpassed Netflix. All right, and we don't talk about Uber. Now we have something here in Trinidad we call TT Ride Share. And a lot of other countries have come up with their own versions of Uber, but Uber had taken over the taxi service for a while, and that they were ranking globally. And the funny thing is, Uber doesn't even own a taxi. They don't own a vehicle. Now we have driverless cars and other driverless vehicles all over the world being tested and actually in operation in many circumstances. So a bit of history. Let's come to the money part. So we see how technology has evolved over the years. What about money? In 2008, the world experienced a financial crisis that is said to be worse than the Great Depression of 1929. And that occurred despite the US Federal Reserve Treasury Department's efforts to prevent it. Those of you who have been following what has been happening with the COVID scenario, the Federal Reserve very early has been proposing bailouts, and they've already started printing currency by the hundreds of millions. They weren't able to they did not succeed in 2008. They feel they could succeed now. And 2008 was worse than what was considered the Great Depression, which was a global event. This one, we come into that. So you could well imagine the kinds of reactions persons had in that scenario. So coming out of that, and I will leave you to, I can't, for time's sake, I can't go into all the details, but you could check out what happened in 2008 with the financial scenario, where the Lehman Brothers Bank crashed, and that had a trickle-off effect where other banks felt the pinch, and it all stemmed from the housing industries and the mortgage system and a whole craziness that went down. Long story is that people lost their livelihoods, people lost property, people lost their wealth by the millions, in billions in some cases. So right out of that, some person or persons came up with this concept called a Bitcoin, which was supposed to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be made directly, to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Bill Gates made a profound statement. He said, banking is necessary. Banks are not. I wanted to ponder that for a minute. Banking is necessary. Banks are not. You don't need a bank to do banking. A simple explanation. In Trinidad, at least, I don't know, I'm not sure what happens outside the board. We have something we call a credit union. A credit union gives banking solutions and services, but they are not a bank. They are governed by the banking rules, but a credit union is not a bank. A credit union essentially is a cooperative, because the people who have their money in it have shares. When you put your money in the credit union, it is towards shares. When you put your money in the bank, it's towards their pocket. Because you don't get anything for it. In fact, if you put $10,000 in the bank now and come back in a year, if you get 9, you get plenty. Because every month they're taking something just for you having your money in the bank. And we know that. But credit unions operate differently. So they provide banking services, but they are not a bank. And there are other institutions, I'm sure, in other parts of the world, there are other institutions that behave similarly, where you can get banking-like services to save, you get loans, all that kind of stuff. You get interest on what you deposit and all that kind of stuff, but they are not necessarily a bank. So coming out of this scenario in 2009, this Bitcoin was launched in 2009. These bright people came up with this idea. And people started observing it, people started playing with it, people started toying with it, people started experimenting to see if this makes any sense. Digital money, how come? Why? That sound real? That something, and you had all these differing opinions coming out where this Bitcoin was concerned. So in 2004, a very bright young lady by the name of Dr. Ruja Ignatova, having a master's degree in economics and a PhD in law, came up with this concept, and they eventually launched this company called One Life. And I want to share with you, again, an opportunity. An opportunity is simply something that is presented to you. It is up to you now whether you want to seize the opportunity and run with it or turn away. That's all. That is all. Nobody forces you to listen to an opportunity, but at least, as I said, you cannot make an informed decision without correct information. And I'm sure, like everything else, you might Google, you might jump on the internet to say, let me check this out. And you would see a barrage of articles, some good, some different, some good, some bad, some indifferent, sorry. But as I tell people, the same place you saw the negative article, you also saw a positive one. That's on the internet. What was the logic that you came to in order to prefer one over the next? Whether positive or negative. If you're getting two different types of information from one source, what would be your determining factor to decide which one you're going to pay attention to and which one you're going to reject? Because if you do a search on Google about Google, you will even find articles that are telling you Google is a scam. Google is a ripoff. And you're finding that on Google, which is owned by Google. I just wanted to think a little bit. So don't be too quick to just accept anything you hear or you read. Look at information carefully. Examine it. Pick sense from nonsense, as we say, and see what you come up with. So this company had a mission, and I think we can summarize everything that is involved in the mission in that statement number 2. Everything that this company has done from since 2004 to now has all been aimed at increasing the quality of life of its members. Now, I want to say something about 2 words. You're seeing that word on top, network, and then you're seeing members. Well, let me help you. Again, information. If you have a phone in your pocket, if you have a smartphone, guess what? You are a member of a network. If you have cable in your house, guess what? You are a member of a network. If you have an email account, hey, you are a member of a network. You have WhatsApp on your phone, guess what? You are a member of a network. You shop on Amazon, hey, you are a member of a global network. And again, it's simply people have misinformation and people feed them with all kind of crap and they decide to listen to that rather than use their brain, their own brain that God gave them. They decide to listen to use other people's brain and get sidetracked. So there's nothing wrong with a network. There's nothing wrong with being a member of a network. If you understand how networks work, there is a measure of security within networks. Because if your email got hacked, you could talk to Google and try to get this scenario ironed out. In some cases, they may be able to retrieve your email and fix things, help you with security to secure your own business. That's how networks work. You get me? When you put your money in the bank, guess what? You are not part of a network. The next story, but we'll get to that in a minute. But everything this company has been doing is aimed at increasing the quality of life of all its members. And as we're talking members right now, we are close to 3.7 million. I remember when I joined this company, I became part of this family, this network in 2016. We were a little under 3 million. We were 2.7. To date, we are 3.6 million, bordering 3.7 million. And the numbers are growing steadily. So we are in all continents. We are in over 194 countries, and we are doing amazing stuff. So this company has sought to now educate people on what has been happening. So let's get back to the money. So I showed you where technology has changed over the years. This company came out riding on the technology wave and came up with something that can now help people to better their lives in the future, and it's all technology based. But here's what I want us to focus on, and this is where this company goes into. Just like technology, money has also evolved over the last few years. And today, if you talk to the average person about this system, they don't know. You talk to some of the older heads, they understand what this is about. They understand this. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with a guy, and he was telling me when he was young, he remembers days when his grandmother would put him sitting next to a hen, waiting. And as soon as the hen laid the egg, he was to take that egg, run by somebody and said, hold this, grandma want to get 2 bread. I said, wait. No, I knew of it. I didn't grow up in a barter scenario. But that gentleman took me to a different level. Imagine that. You waiting, sit down, stooping next to the hen, just waiting for that egg to pop out. Because that's your payment to go and get 2 bread down the road by the neighbor. Neighbor take the egg, you get 2 bread. That was bartering, ladies and gentlemen. That is how things used to work. That was the concept people had of money back then. But that eventually, over time, became things like gold coins, silver coins. There was a time even salt was used as money. I think it's Cliff Samlal Singh, one of our senior leaders, showed me something the other day. I have to find it back and track it. This particular country today, where stones, I'm talking about big stones that probably weigh a couple 100 pounds, is considered money. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I'm talking about big, round stones, 2 and 3 feet across. In some cases, they have smaller ones too. That is used as money in that particular country. So we move past all those heavy stuff. As I said, some people still use it. But most countries in the world use some sort of paper currency to represent money. Understand this. The paper currency is not money. It represents money. And I'll come to that in a little bit. That has moved on to the old credit card and your debit card and so on, plastic. And I remember when this came out, certain people was very hesitant. No, they want to feel their currency because to them, this plastic thing, I I don't understand that, so they can't see the value behind something like that. And then we had a plethora of digital payment solutions that came on: PayPal, Alipay, Android Pay. We have Google Pay now, Apple Pay, Swipe, and a whole heap of them that tie themselves to credit cards, which incidentally is also tied back to the paper currency. But that has soon changed, ladies and gentlemen. And since 2009, the new kid on the block, the new reality of life is this thing called cryptocurrency. I tell people this very plain, very simple. You could beat up, as we say in local parlance, you could beat up, you could complain, you could fret, you could frown how much you want. When something is poised to happen, it will happen. And no matter how much you dislike it or kick fuss against it, you won't stop it. This, ladies and gentlemen, has been the new reality, not since COVID, since 2009. It started with Bitcoin as one. Today, we are bordering 5,000 cryptocurrencies in existence. Whether all will last is a different story, but obviously people seeing value one way or the other, so they're trying to get involved in it. The paper currency that we're talking about goes by the term fiat. Fiat currency is not backed by any physical commodity. In fact, fiat currency in itself has no value. The perceived value is ascribed to it by the government. The government decides how much that particular piece of paper is worth based on the color or whatever else. That means the government could decide tomorrow the blue piece of paper will no longer be worth this, it will be worth X. You understand what I'm saying? The biggest risk to fiat currency is becoming worthless due to hyperinflation. I saw something when doing my research. I came across this. The Central Bank of Zimbabwe at one point was issuing $1 trillion notes. And that was during the last days of the hyperinflation of 2009. That was just coming out of the 2008 scenario. But ladies, they could barely buy a loaf of bread. This is where people just get confused, because we look at scenarios. Look at this: a Zimbabwean woman holds a loaf of bread, and it costs at its cost of 45,000 Zimbabwe dollars, which equates about 45 cents US. $45,000 for a loaf of bread. You see what confuses people in this? They look at the piles of money and they feel it's much, but they don't understand the difference between the paper currency and the value or the buying power. The purchasing power is what is important. Doesn't matter how much of those notes you have. Because obviously, based on the example, you will see where one note from one currency is equal to thousands or tens of thousands or even millions of another. So you might have a barrel full of notes from this currency, but it's not even worth one of this currency. That is the reality we live in. The US dollar is the preferred currency of the world. Therefore, it has a particular buying power. So depending on the currency that you are working with, it will take you X amount of that currency to equate $1 US. We understand how that works, right? But get this. The US dollar, the mighty US dollar, is currently going through a position where it could very well end up just like the Zimbabwe dollar. Because over time, people have lost faith in it. Countries have stopped using it or are seriously proposing scenarios to avoid using it in the future. Guess what will happen at that point in time? The value will obviously, but the purchasing power will drop because people don't want it. In fact, there are places already. We went to, I myself and a team, we went to Europe a couple of years back. One was my first time, and I was amazed. I said, well, it's US. Everybody takes US. No, there are some people that told you, no, sir. We don't accept US. But we feel if we have US, we big. Don't get me started. Don't get me hot. This is what the same Zimbabwe $1 trillion has become to. This is what it has come to. A gift item. You can now buy a Zimbabwe $1 trillion note for 139 pounds. But note what it says. It is a great conversation starter. It is obsolete, no more in use. It is no longer considered legal tender. It is a collectible item only. Makes great gift for everyone. So imagine something that is supposed to be worth $1 trillion. You could buy it for 139 pounds. Pick sense out of nonsense, people. Now people are actually buying up these to sell them back. So they're making money off of the note, where the note itself has no value, no intrinsic value. But this says something here. People will pay money for this because it's a collectible item. They can't use it to pay for anything, but it has some level of value. It tells you something. Value at the end of the day is a perception. The basic definition of money is anything that a group of people decide to accept as payment for their goods and services. That's money in a nutshell. People like to talk about gold. When we talk about money, people like to talk about gold and silver and stuff. But here's this. Even that, and the word they like to use is intrinsic. And I'm going to challenge that here now. Let me tell you why. While it is true, if you can't pay for something with gold, you can still use the gold maybe to make jewelry or, some piece of craft or something. Here's the funny thing. That still has no value to some people. So in other words, you might be surprised to know that a piece of iron has more value to some persons than gold, because they could do something productive with the piece of iron for their survival, whereas with the gold they can't. Yeah, they may be able to sell back the gold if they live in a scenario where that can happen. But if they happen to just come across gold, there's no way to sell it to trader. Whether you feel that gold have any value to them? No, friend. To the outside world, it might be worth how much $1,000 per ounce. To that person, that's no different than a stone. It has no value. So value at the end of the day is a perception. But we'll leave that for our next talk. So I wanted to listen to this gentleman. I love to hear him too bad. And here's what he has to say about the banking system, because invariably, whenever we talk money, we think banks. But remember, banking is essential. Banks are not.
It is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics. and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
And that is where Mr. Cliff Samuel Singh would usually signal a round of applause and start a clap. But listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. While the banks have been telling you for the last 5 years to not get involved in alternative solutions, alternative means of payment, alternative currencies, cryptocurrencies in particular, they've been doing it under law. So they're telling you don't get involved, but they're doing it under law. I saw a video a couple of weeks ago from Australia where a particular bank said they were forced to do in 10 weeks what they were already planning to do over the next 5 years. And that was move away from cash to go to cashless solutions. And if you're talking cashless solution, you cannot talk cashless solution without talking the king of cashlessness, cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies, what are they? They are protocols that allow the validation of transactions without the need of third parties, such as banks, credit card companies, or escrow agents. They behave like gold, therefore they are referred to as digital gold. Therefore, the value of cryptocurrencies depend on supply and demand, just like gold. Simple, cryptocurrency that exists, they have a fixed supply, or they are supposed to have a fixed supply. Therefore, the more cryptocurrencies come into existence, into circulation, the supply dwindles, therefore the value goes up. The opposite happens with fiat money or fiat currency. Every year, governments print new money, new currency. More comes into supply, into circulation. Guess what? Your value, your purchasing power goes down. Cryptocurrencies are created and reside on something called a blockchain. What is a blockchain? It is a digital technology that records and verifies transactions. I heard of a story recently where, and I'm going to try to run out in the interest of time. I heard of a story where this person bought a car from someone else only to find out that the car was already sold to somebody else before that. Blockchain eliminates, that's a simple example. Blockchain eliminates that because it tracks every chain of a process from start to finish. Imagine you go to a drugstore to buy a drug and you could find out everything from where it was created, the laboratory, who were the doctors involved, and everything along the way from that point to when it comes into your pocket. That is the beauty of blockchain, ladies and gentlemen. So the heart of the company is education. We all about educating people. The reason why a lot of people get catch with these things simply because they don't know. They're not educated. They're unaware. So our company is all about bringing awareness. So we have an arm of the company called the One Academy, which is like an online university, and we offer several levels of several forms of financial education. We have finance, we have general finance, we have forex, we have legal interpretations of cryptocurrency. Now we've even recently introduced a course in blockchain, because all over the world people are understanding the value and the significance of blockchain. So This is from the legal courses. What it helps you is to understand how different countries use and interpret cryptocurrencies. So for instance, some say it's a digital currency, some call it a digital commodity, some call it a payment token, some call it a virtual asset. And if you are to operate in a particular country, you need to be aware of these things, because guess what? Cryptocurrency is here to stay, ladies and gentlemen. You mightn't be aware of it, you mightn't like it, but that's a reality. It's here to stay. This is an excerpt from level 1, our introduction to finance, level 1. Many central banks have failed in the respect. The aforementioned example of the Federal Reserve of the United States is a notorious one. Since after the establishment of this institution in 1913, the dollar has lost over 95% of its value as of today. And actually, this was printed several years ago. So who knows, probably must be 95 point something, or maybe 96 by now. And this is introduction to finance, level 1, ladies and gentlemen, level 1. Let me tell you something. My son did some studies at Custard, and he informed me after going through level 1, he said, Daddy, everything we do in Custard is like like university level training here. He did some economic studies and some finance studies. He said everything we did there, level 1 in One Academy covers that. And this went further because they gave us tokens, which we could mine into OneCoins to get value. And I'll come into that just now. Recently, we have launched a new phase to the One Academy called Blockchain Level 1 and Level 2. Level 1 is an introduction to blockchain. Level 2 is a semi-professional. Level 2 brings you to be qualified as a semi-professional blockchain expert. Imagine that. So what we say, ladies and gentlemen, learn today, so we can lead tomorrow. We lead by example. Take the courses, learn the material, earn the certificates, and duplicate your success. So we talked about money. We talked about the evolution. We introduced cryptocurrency, which is the new kid on the block now. So the obvious question, well, who needs cryptocurrency? Do we need cryptocurrency? I mean, we still have money. Money hasn't gone away. At least what we refer to as money is still here. Do we need cryptocurrency? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, because 40%, approximately 40% of the world does not use banking solutions nor services, but they still need to do some sort of financial transaction between persons. The remittance service market. This is actually 2016 figures. About approximately 600 billion. What is remittance? You paying money to send money. 600 billion. Imagine a cryptocurrency that eliminates the need for something like this. What about global trade, buying and selling goods? The ease of settlement, cross-border payments and purchases, cost of fraud, restrictions on where and what you can buy or sell. Because one of the things with cryptocurrency as indicated, it is designed to move seamlessly between you and the person who is purchasing or buying, depending on what side of the fence you're on, between buyer and seller, seamlessly without hitches. Right now, if you attempt to buy something online, you have to go through so many different steps. And by the time your money reaches the person, it costs you more, because every time it moves from point to point, there's a charge, there's a fee. Credit cards, fees, and all that kind of stuff. Last year, our government brought a new $100 bill on the market. That happened just before the close of the year, last year. And by the beginning of this year, the Supermarkets Association said, unfortunately, they're going to have to raise prices and pass it on to the consumer. Tell me why you're happy with that. And you happy with the current financial scenario? This is another one that came from a bank. This notice is for customers. The bank said this is as a result of ongoing challenge for foreign exchange. They now had a purchasing limit of 12,000 US on your credit card. So imagine you have to buy things on a regular basis because you are accustomed spending 15, 20, 25,000, sometimes in one shot based on your business. Now you have to downsize. And there's a lot of trickle-down effects happening, ladies and gentlemen. What about protecting your wealth? This is one of the key reasons I like cryptocurrency. Because what this essentially is saying, whereas fiat currency loses value over time, cryptocurrency has the potential to increase in value over time. Therefore, your wealth is protected in the long run. Not to mention the whole security aspect and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole next conversation we can have. But you can access your money from any part of the world easily and not have to depend on somebody else to do that. Imagine you wake up to this one morning because you so trust the government and the financial services, and then you wake up one morning and get faced with this. US 4.6 billion in our foreign reserves. Our reserves, let me not say foreign, our reserves lost in errors and omissions. Did I go further? So just imagine this. In 2020, you could have bought a certain amount of goods with a $100 bill in Trinidad and Tobago. Unanimously, I know everybody will say in 2021, you won't be able to do that amount, because we also have the track record where 2019, we could have done more with the same $100 bill as opposed to 2020. And 2018, we could have done more. And as you go further back, you realize the purchasing power of the currency was higher. It is getting lower over time. What do you think it will be in the next 10 years? So here's what I want you to consider. Fiat currency is guaranteed to lose value over time. If you get involved in this opportunity that we are showing you, ladies and gentlemen, the cryptocurrency that you will earn is not guaranteed to lose value. So let me just, in the interest of time, skip through some slides here a minute. Because this is what I need you to understand. The OneCoin cryptocurrency that you can acquire through getting involved in our One Academy process has increased in value 21 times in 3 years. 21 times in 3 years. The value has never dropped. But I wanted to look at this little video as we come close to the end.
By 2020, mobile wallets on our smartphones are expected to surpass the use of credit and debit cards in the U.S.
On the streets of Beijing, cash is definitely not king.
What do you think of people who use cash to pay for things?
That's rare and weird, he says. Only the elderly and people who don't know how to use a phone pay cash.
Talk about changing times, even as some American communities are bucking the trend toward stores that don't take cash. Mark Phillips tells us there's already a country that hardly uses it at all.
There's a strong IT, digital entrepreneurship phase in Sweden now, where entrepreneurial companies really want to challenge the old banking industry by providing these new innovative mobile payment services.
The old banking industry has reacted, with 6 of Sweden's largest banks banding together in 2012 to build an instantaneous mobile payment platform, Swish.
We share the development costs. We see that customers are adopting new technology like mobile payments, and of course we also saw this need where we could replace cash.
The idea that banks could cooperate to kill off cash might be unthinkable elsewhere. But it's not so surprising in Sweden, where bills and coins recently constituted less than 3% of the country's domestic product. That's compared to an average across the euro area of almost 10%. Many bank branches here no longer carry hard currency. Homeless magazine vendors like Jimmy here use wireless card readers to accept credit and debit card payments. And then I press this? Yeah. And certain cell phone stores sport signs saying no cash accepted. But in Sweden, which printed Europe's first banknotes 350 years ago, these new technologies have not stopped the central bank from designing new notes for 2015.
This is a security feature that will be on all of them.
Susanna Gruffman may control the country's physical currency, but says she herself never carries cash.
We are quite neutral, even though we are the one who provide the society with cash. We don't necessarily say that cash is, for example, when you look at efficiency, the best payment instrument.
I like that lady. She said, even though we are the ones that create and manage the cash system, we don't tell the people necessarily that this is the best. And she of herself do not carry cash. So what is this about, ladies and gentlemen? The goal is to make this cryptocurrency that we have gotten involved with, called the OneCoin, the favored cryptocurrency of the world through usability, through expansion, through market capitalization. And I'll just close off with this one. So to help make this a reality, the company has launched this interactive platform called Deal Shaker. Deal Shaker allows persons, these 3.5 million persons who are now part of this global network, who now own cryptocurrency that they've acquired through getting involved in the One Academy. We can now spend our cryptocurrency at over 130,000 merchants and growing daily without having to exchange, without having to cash in. They are accepting the cryptocurrency natively, and we have tons of testimonials from persons who bought from house to land to yacht to car, rented apartments, did their hair, got massage, paid for food, paid for groceries, paid hospital bills, paid school bills, you name it, they've done it. Taken vacations, paying with cryptocurrency. So let me just end off with, I just want to stop share a minute to end off with something here. So to help promote that concept, this Wednesday coming, we are launching the second edition of what we call our one-line shopping adventure. One line simply because we are promoting merchants who are accepting this OneCoin cryptocurrency and who have been doing it for a while. And you can log on, scan a QR code, and purchase goods and services. If you don't have OneCoins, well, at least take the opportunity to see how it works. And then you can decide, somebody whom probably would have been talking to you for a while, you get that opportunity to see how it works. How can people really benefit from this thing? And jump in. Why not jump in? Seize the opportunity. Seize the opportunity. How much worse than how things are can it be? And if you listen to the testimonies, you realize it ain't getting worse at all. It's actually getting better for a lot of people who have seized the opportunity. And then next week, Saturday, I want to now invite you to this.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hello, everyone. Hello, the world out there. This is Tan, country manager of Australia. I'm a DS core team, also a core captain in One Life. I'm so excited and very excited making this short video to all of you. Why? Because what happened here on the 25th of July, we actually have a international, what we call is a global digital event right in this month to showing to the world how we're going to use our coins. So ladies and gentlemen, I like to invite all of you, and yes, on behalf of Australia, we want to invite all of you to join and tuning into this global event. Be part of us to showing your business to the world, to showing your products to the world by tuning this 25th of July, the global event. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I will see you in the event from 25th of July. See you there.
So you have two opportunities to see this whole thing that I just presented. You have two opportunities coming up, one this Wednesday, one next week Saturday, to see this thing happen in real. Probably you've heard about it and you've doubted whether it is true. Well, I deliberately shared the last video from Australia because I want you to understand that it is global. We have over 60, possibly 70 countries that will be participating in this global online expo come next week, Saturday, 25th. So seize the opportunity, keep in touch with the persons who have been talking to you, keep in touch with persons who may have been inviting you and who invited you to the call to find out when and where. We have a Facebook page called Deal Shaker Caribbean. So the one this Wednesday will be on Deal Shaker Caribbean. The global one, next week Saturday, will be on our global Deal Shaker channel on YouTube. And of course, it will be fed from there into our Facebook pages and so on. So look out for the information, stay in touch with us, and hoping to see you there to share the moment with us. So let me hand right back to my host for the evening, Mr. Wayne Wilson.
Wow, incredible, Eric. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised you information and information with excitement. And Eric really, really laid it out for us tonight. You have the two events that he spoke of. Don't put those in your calendar. You can invite people to look at it. Also tomorrow, please God, keep in touch with the person that invited you here. We would have our lunch and learn once technology does not interrupt us at 12 noon tomorrow. And you can join us again on Thursday coming at the same time, 8 p.m., where another dynamic presenter will present again to you and your invited guests. So once again, I want to thank everyone for coming onto the call. Get back to the person that invited you and get more information. And once again, good night to all. Thank you for joining us. Bye.